we're moving on to the sixth panel discussion of the day, and the topic that we're going to discuss is Roadmap to Building Brands on OTT. I'll repeat the topic, Roadmap to Building Brands on OTT. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage, first, the head, Content, Partnerships and New Initiatives, Digital Business, Sony Pictures Network India, Mr. Amog Dusad. So our panelists on stage, first, the head, Content, Partnerships and New Initiatives, Digital Business, Sony Pictures Networks India, Amog Dusad. Vice President Revenue, Viduli, Preeti Jadhav, Head of Content and Creative, Eros Now, Roshni Ghosh. The Marketing Director, The Viral Fever, Vineet Kanabar, and the moderator for this session is the Associate Vice President, iProspect, Mihir Mehta.
Hi everyone. I think what we are going to discuss today, and I think everybody belongs to the same space as well, and we all know that OTT market has been growing, and it has now reached around 250, 300 million base with YouTube, Hotstar and other bigger players. So I think I'll just start with the main question is that with the Indian OTT market being so hyper competitive and attracting so many different kind of business models like a broadcaster OTTs, telecom, global OTTs like Netflix, distributor OTTs and others in the market, and subscription video on demand OTTs like Eros Now, Netflix, Amazon. Do you think there is room for everybody, or you feel that after a certain point of time we'll be seeing some collaboration or something in the market? Anybody can take the question.
So my sense is, I think in the past 3 or 4 years, we've seen OTTs, the web series market, digital entertainment at large, really come off its own, right? I remember when we launched Permanent Roommate Season 2, which was 2016, the forecast was about 12 web series that year, right? The next year it became 75. This year we're looking at, 300, maybe more. So the business of entertainment still remains a title-driven business, and while we're seeing this sort of land grab mode from a Netflix or from an Amazon or from one of the bigger players, there will be a certain amount of consolidation, right? And where it really comes down to is how much space do you have on your phone, and how many dead apps are you going to have on your phone after a point in time? The share of wallet that entertainment will start commanding will start rivaling groceries, right? Which is an unheard of situation in the consumer landscape. So my sense is we are going to see a consolidation, the first phase of which has already started, right? With Jio's acquisitions, not just in the OTT space, but also in the music space. So there is a certain consolidation that's already underway. There will be a correction that the market sees when the consumer says, hey, that's it. I only have 1,500 rupees a month to spend on entertainment, or 800 or 500 or whatever that number kind of tapers down to. What's great is that this will result in some new business models also to emerge. I don't think we're at the peak of that consolidation yet. We already have players who are somewhere in the margins of not really a creator, not really an owner of content, but an aggregator. Someone who has sort of an a la carte availability of titles. You have guys like a Hook or a Spool, people who don't own a lot of content but have this sort of licensing that's driving what's available there. So maybe a couple of OTTs, a couple of original creator platforms, and one of these aggregators. 3 or 4 apps is where it'll kind of taper out. That's my sense. Again, we're seeing this happen in the US market already, and I think the next 5 years is going to be very interesting for the space for those 4 spots on the phone and the HDMI cable on the TV. That's where my sense it is.
Just to add to this, why some of the OTTs will continue to function or operate or prosper while some will consolidate and merge into others will only be driven by what content is the OTT player or the platform actually being churning out, and what is the kind of stickiness and we were discussing some time back, should it be stickiness to the content or should it be stickiness to the platform, right? And that will all actually in the end give the verdict out of which stays and who goes out. At the heart of everything will have to be understanding of what consumer actually wants to see and how are we churning content. So understanding the audiences will actually define what we will see at the end of probably 2 years.
So I think that brings to the second question, and which is also very relevant, that how then as marketers you are able to retain those people on your platform. Because there is so much of churn on all the OTT platforms, and a recent BCG report also said that not a mobile phone doesn't have more than 3 OTT apps. Only 8% people have 3 or more OTT apps. So how do you think you are able to maintain that loyalty among people and
I think one important aspect in this discussion is the reason why you are actually being downloaded by the user. And you know, at Sony Live, we've seen that the more you're able to expand your offering in terms of breadth, more you're able to, while the reason for somebody to download the app today could be India-Australia series, but if you are able to give enough options, because that consumer is not only watching India-Australia, right? And the series gets over, if you're able to, in that period, make a convincing argument through your content offering on the app, that there is enough and more to explore there, probably you win that battle and you've passed that decision cycle where, you know, he was good about to decide to take it off. And I think that's where the breadth of offering, because will make a big distinction on what actually happens. Which will at first level lead to a lot of consolidation, and second, what Vineet was saying, to very innovative ways for different businesses to align. So today you are in an environment where there are telcos who have OTT apps, there are content creators who have OTT apps, there are broadcasters who have OTT apps. Pretty much anybody has an OTT app. But I think when you put a filter of the reason why that app exists on a user's phone, and the stronger that, so today Amazon exists for 2 reasons on consumers app. There is a strong e-commerce reason and there is also the content reason. For broadcasters who have an OTT play, there is a big driver of catch-up content. People who watch our shows and want to have that app because in case they miss out because of some reason, they need to readily go and access that. That's why there is no content on YouTube for Sony viewers to go and catch up. You add that with a strong sports offering and then continue to expand that offering with other content pieces. Probably you'll have some solution on holding out of the churn.
So far, I think, just to add to what Amog was saying, so far what we're seeing is a sort of commoditized offering that tries to cover all the bases that a consumer wants to see, right? Does it always play out like that? Maybe, maybe not, right? A couple of examples from my own experience. I'm an avid football watcher. I know that platform A has the Premier League while platform B has the Champions League. And I only use those 2 platforms to watch that content and move on from there, right? So that utilitarian aspect of serving the needs of the consumer with certain types of entertainment is definitely one of the reasons why you'll build stickiness, right? Without that, there is no play. On top of that lies a layer of experience, right? If I'm on a Netflix today, Netflix does everything possible to remove any sort of friction from my content viewing experience. Do I have to watch the credits on episode 2? No, I don't. Do I have to watch the intro sequence? No, I don't. If it's been a long time that I've been watching, Netflix will prompt and ask me, hey, are you still there? Have you slept off, right? So that kind of experience is only built when there is a massive alignment in their entire philosophy, so to speak, right? To say, hey, we're here to get we're competing with the user's sleep time, right? That means breadth of content, absolutely. Experience, absolutely. New titles, exciting content, absolutely, right? On top of that, I think, and that's what all great brands are able to do. I mean, you provide a functional aspect to it, you provide an emotional benefit, but at the end of it, there is a certain meaning that brands are able to provide, right? Today, an Amazon Prime provides the meaning of next day delivery, provides the meaning of great service and great content. Today, Netflix provides the meaning of a great movie watching experience with big ticket content at home. For us, for TVF Play, the meaning that we're trying to provide, the sort of reason for existence and for why people should keep us on their phone, is the fact that we want to be everything that's dealing with the youth, right? The way we've seen OTTs today as a viewing platform, for guys like us who are nimble, flexible, smaller guys, it can be anything I want. Tomorrow I can bake in a gaming platform in there. We can try doing interesting VR stuff. We can open a shop, right? So at the top of that hierarchy is this whole meaningfulness to your consumer, and you try and understand how much of that meaning you can package into the experience, and that kind of gives a reason to keep coming back and keeping your app on the phone. I mean, the best of web series we've done, and we've been doing this a long time. This is 2016 when we did Tripling. Tripling was a massive hit. Nobody had seen a web series at that scale before. Tripling released on 28th August, and last episode came out on 3rd of October. Between 3rd and 10th October, I saw uninstall rates go up massively because of the simple reason, the functional benefit of great content. Series khatam ho gaya, app uninstall kar liya. Right? So that is what you're fighting all the time, unless you're an SWAT platform, which kind of makes it different.
So I think that brings to one more question that you spoke about sports, and we all know that during sports there is a complete surge in install rates and the viewership of the platform as well. So after sports, how are you able to retain those people? Because see, the audience which watches sports and the audience which doesn't watch sports is totally different. So how do you entice those people who are watching sports, and how do you retain those set of people on your platform for a longer time? Because see, I am watching cricket. After India-Australia series, there is a gap, there is IPL, which might not be there with your platform, which is there with another platform. So how do you maintain that user flow and keep on engaging your users till the time you get another sports?
No, I think that's a very, very important point. And there is a whole universe of content that is between the content that we as an entertainment company create and the sports content that a lot of people come in to watch. And I think as part of our scale up into original content this year, and we have a lot of ambitious plans into going into, is to plug in that space. One other point that I wanted to highlight on what Vineet was saying earlier is at some point, each of these OTT players will have to align to their competitive advantage, or what I usually call as in what is your unfair advantage. So if I'm a broadcaster OTT, my unfair advantage is that the Sony network has close to 500 million eyeballs every year. Is there a way that I can use that to my advantage, considering we are getting into a period of a TV plus digital? India unlikely will be an or market. It looks like an and market. People will have TVs and will get phones. And our little experiments in this space in last 6-8 months, actually last 1 year, have reaped in amazing returns for us. And what I'm trying to talk about is the second screen experiences. So we started with Jio last year on KBC, and we activated KBC Play Along. This year, KBC Play Along happened on Sony Live. It is by far the most interactive experience in this year, with average session length being more than 60-62 minutes. People coming in every night for 90 days. That's a unique advantage that I can offer because I have a strong ecosystem around television content. So I think that is the other part where and I think all the OTT players the telcos have the door advantage about paying subscribers, and that could help them in serving their business model further.
So what you're saying is to replace a big IP like a cricket, a sporting event, you need a big IP like KBC or say Big Boss or something like that to cover it up for a longer time.
Basically plug in the gap that is there from a broadcaster catch-up content versus sports. And I think a lot of sports viewers are interested in a lot of web series. I'm sure there would be an overlap. They would be interested in a lot of Hollywood content. And that's where our scale-up is happening. So in this coming year, you will see a lot of scale-up in all those content offerings, so that once we draw in people, we are able to hold them out month on month.
Also to then use a recommendation kind of a mechanics to give them not only the kind of content that they're watching, But what are they watching otherwise socially, digitally also, right?
100%. I've come from TV. Nothing fascinates me more than a recommendation engine. It is probably the most powerful tech which makes all the 400 million smartphones in the country individualized,
Brands
personalized.
and OTTs are not spending as much on actually understanding the recommendation engine to what it should be, and some of the conversations that we have with some of the OTT players and some of the brands are are you actually willing to invest in understanding what goes on behind the consumer's mind or goes on behind the OTT space of actually creating that merge between the two, right, on the audience's perspective? But yeah, I think that's where we will be heading
I
to, and
think it
that's
is
where we should.
strategically very important. Probably, on a lighter note, what's happening with a lot of OTT content is, what I call as a drunken sailor syndrome. So after being in the seas for weeks and months, you land at the port, and the first night is party night, right? I think that's what is going on with content. And next day you get up and you are nursing through your hangover, and that's when everything settles down. I think we are in the phase of partying right now, so there is just too much content, which is good, and I think industry will find its feet, but there's just too much stuff happening. And for the churn argument that you had mentioned and what Preeti was saying, I don't see a stronger strategic solution than investment into recommendations. Amazon, we all know, God forbid, if you've searched for some product on Amazon, it will not leave you anywhere, right? So I think that sort of way to keep the viewer hooked is definitely required for OTT.
And just to kind of put a ribbon on it, the two best content engines that we know of right now, Netflix and Amazon, are both built on great recommendation engines, right? Amazon's proprietary technology has been the recommendation engine, and Netflix has really done it in a way that nobody else has before, right? And I want to just tell you about, I was at a friend's house a couple of days ago, and he opened up his Netflix, and not a single title on his screen was something that I knew was on Netflix. Not a single one, right? I mean, and I was like, wait, that's the real power. That's personalization at scale, right? The other thing about the Indian market when it comes to personalization and is that we're the recipients of a benefit that we just refuse to take cognizance of. It is, we have a language separated audience, right? That's the first level of personalization. Sure, you're going to have a sports viewer coming in from all parts of the country, but the moment you know his language setting, you already have one level more insight than so many other creators or players in the market. And you're seeing you're seeing platforms build on this competitive advantage. I think what you said earlier was bang on it. Aligned to your competitive advantage, what a Hoichoi has been able to do in the East, building on simply one language, making sure that they're servicing that audience. It's just fantastic, right? It doesn't even need sort of like, oh, let's train our AI engine for 5 years and then we'll see where it goes. It's a very simple analog hack.
I think, great. So that brings to a next question. I think we've discussed about content being created at scale. There's a lot of content, there's a lot of investment which is being made in creating content as well. So with the abundance of content and with so much of content being created and in the longer run, so do you think there'll be the quality of content will get depleted because there are so many originals being created, and I think everybody is trying to create originals. So do you think in the longer run the quality of originals being created will deplete or go down?
Did it happen with TV? I think, and as the now before Roshni came here, I was the only creator here, so hi Roshni. But from a creator's perspective, I think it's a yes and no, right? I mean, are we all going to make Game of Thrones every single time? No, we're not, right? There will be, it's a hits and misses business, right? Content at its heart, storytelling is a hits and misses business. It depends on how good your story is, who's essaying it, who's the actor, etc., etc. So it's not a binary, right? Acha hai ya bura hai. That said, every creative industry that has grown in the past has seen sort of points of inflection, right? I mean, the needle moving stuff becomes less, right? What was great and pioneering and amazing 2 years ago is run of the mill today. That's how it works, right? So I don't think there's an objective way of saying ganda content banega. But it will take a lot more effort from the creator side to safeguard what is pristine storytelling and what is content that is being made because there's an industry to run. At the end of the day, I mean, we work with great directors, we work with brands all the time, and one thing that TVF has been able to do very well is bring brands on the side of storytellers and say, hey guys, this is not a 9-minute ad. You're not supposed to say Flipkart 9 times here, right? You're not replicating that. Or for that matter, when we did Ye Meri Family, we took mutual funds back to the 90s, right? When the concept of mutual funds was also so new. Now that is storytelling of a different kind as well, right? There is a core story that we know, hey, there's great nostalgia, it's a coming of age story and all of that. But there are ways to bring other stakeholders in and still tell a story that is objectively good, right? So going forward, sure, there will be more content. I think my way of looking at it is, sure, the needle moving stuff will be on a long tail of diminishing returns. And there will be stuff that is put in there because, hey, now we've got 30 OTTs and everybody has viewers to kind of service, so content to banega hi.
I don't think so. There's any bad or good content. I think there is viewership. As long as there's viewership of any kind of content, I think it will just work. Like you said, measurement with brands will then become important. So I think that will drive whether the content stays or goes.
I think eventually as content creators, you are sort of catering to the audience. So I think what eventually the mix of the audience is will also, to a great extent, determine the kind of content that is being put out. But I imagine that the hero content of all the platforms, I think that quality will improve. I think that will only get bigger in scale and everything else. Whereas sustenance, there'll be a lot of different kinds of content that will come in. Because as we know, the hero content just brings the people in, and after that you have to really sustain, and it's a lot of, perhaps there'll be a lot more short form content, a lot more snackable content. So I think the volume of content will increase. And with that, I think, I don't necessarily believe that quality will go down. I don't necessarily believe, we'd all like to be optimistic and think that we'll figure out a way to make good content. But of course, the kind of audience that we will have, I see regional audience coming in a big way. I think there'll be rural penetration as well. So there'll be a lot of audience coming in from that part of India. So that'll all determine finally the kind of content, I feel.
Just to add to what Roshni just said, I actually completely disagree. I don't think we will I don't think we need to be worried about quality of content. For two reasons primarily. One, there is like real money that gets invested in this. So, and everything we are working, especially in digital, even if the numbers are not shared and you're operating walled garden, but you yourself as a company know on what is working, what is not working. So that continuous search for the next interesting idea, next new kind of story, next new audience, which could be vernacular, could be a different demographic set, I think that will continuously lead to different insights and different shows. Sure. So today, if you look at OTT content, there is a fascination with, one life stage, probably. It's 18 to, most of it is 18 to 24, and then 18 to 34 now is gotten extended. But obviously, as the country is expanding with 400 smartphones, slowly you will start creating content for smaller pockets. And because there is real money getting invested and there is good measurement on it, it will self-correct. So I don't think, people will keep doling out money on creating shows even if they are not seeing the quality move up. That's what I meant when I said I disagree with the fact.
Point taken. So I think are we over? Is the time up, or we can have one or two questions? Okay. So there are one question which I would want to ask everybody is that with the increasing reach of all the platforms, be it YouTube, Hotstar, Sony, and many other platforms that we have, Eros, it will get difficult for brands to maintain a certain kind of share of voice on the platform because the spend will start increasing way too much. So what are the other opportunities for brand to partner on these platforms other than just maintaining and doing ads or any other thing? Obviously, brand integrations and other opportunities are there. So what over and above that? So
I think that's a great question. I mean, we've been discussing what is the future of branded content a lot because I mean, we've been doing it. We've done I think 1,000 videos with brands, and after a point, it just feels like, "Kya chal raha hai?" But I think there's a lot that brands are doing already. How OTTs fit into it is one part of the puzzle, I would say. A couple of examples that really spring to mind immediately is we look at what Kingfisher is doing with Sochers and turning into a full-blown publisher, right? You always have the most abused branded content example of all time, Red Bull, with the kind of stuff that they've been able to achieve. I think more and more brands will start using content as a surrogate to own culture, and that's where we're moving, right? I think a lot of experiments have happened with trying to do advertising and pre-roll and branded content and measurement and all of that. But all of that is sort of trying to justify what we already know and make sure investments keep going. But going back to what I said earlier also, content really gives brands an opportunity to meaningfully own a part of culture, and that's what we'll start seeing a lot more. That's what I'm getting. I mean, can we have the equivalent of a Harley owners group with Amazon Prime on Amazon? Absolutely, right? I mean, those are spaces that become open as you own more and more of your audience's time. I'm going to give you an example which you guys will judge me about, but please don't. It's a great example. Look at what the Kardashians have done. Right? The Kardashians started as reality TV. Today, all 5 of them have apps which are, they can stream their lives. They own a piece of culture. They talk to their fans, they sell merchandise, they plug brands, and they don't even need an Instagram anymore. Right? So while that may be a drop in the ocean, that is a really, binocular vision of what's going to happen later. That, I think, is where the space kind of pushes you to. The moment you start investing in storytelling, the next step is owning culture. And as more and more brands sort of become clearer about their strategies in this space, that's a pivot that I'm very interested in seeing happening.
The one C that I want to add, completely agree with you, first of all. Only C that I want to add to the culture piece is the context. And I think that's the other area in which content creation, especially by brands, will have to be looked at. I was hearing a panel earlier, and I think what Ramit was saying made a lot of sense. The communication that the brand does even inform audiovisual on a Facebook, just because it's in context of a social media platform, compared to what it would choose to do on, let's say, my platform, Sony Live, has to be different. Because it might be the same demographic, but the mind space that I'm in, the context that I'm in when I am on these places, is kind of different, and I think that's where more and more solutions will emerge, more and more innovations will sort of come around.
Cool. So that brings to the last question. I think, sorry? Okay, we'll just take this question and then probably we can take it to the audience. Or we can do the audience now. So we'll have 5 minutes for the audience questions, or we don't have? So we'll open it to the audience then. So if anybody has any question. Okay, so S-word and A-word, and I think what we are seeing is that a lot of platforms are trying to get into partnerships to push S-word to people like Hotstar partnering with Airtel and Jio during IPLs and creating those packages exclusively for them. I think, but still, I think the reach and the scalability in S-word is still not there. So what do you think, will it ever reach, will it ever reach the other US markets like US and UK where S-word is more popular, or S-word and A-word will continue to be, function together in the Indian market?
I'll quickly start on that. Right now, I think S-word is about 9% or 10% of the A-word population or the A-word universe that we had in the country. What is missing is people are okay to actually wait for S-word content to probably come on A-word and not pay that premium. And coming back to that point of, should there be more hero content that should be created which can then become premium? Should we create and invest into content which then becomes super important and super urgent for people to actually pay up for that money and actually start watching that content? I think again it then comes back to quality of content.
The advertiser in India has always subsidized entertainment for the consumer. It's a terrible habit that we have. We pay per channel. I mean, if you know the range of subscription fees you're paying per channel, you laugh. Like 7 rupees, 12 rupees is what you're paying per channel, right? That's 24 hours, 7 days a week, 12 months a year entertainment sent to you at, 80 rupees a year. That's not sustainable, right? First of all. So will the shift happen to S-word? Absolutely. How it will happen? A lot of the things that we discussed right now, right? Great experiences, personalized content, hero content, etc. Will play a part. But there is this whole hangover of the advertiser always having to subsidize the customer's entertainment. As we sort of move out of that into newer spaces, I think we'll see that shift happen much, much faster. But this mindset, once it changes a little more, maybe we'll see it moving a little more.